RMC is supported by MonsterJoysticks.com. Level up your retro gaming with their joysticks featuring genuine Sanwa arcade parts. And OneClickPrint.com for your photos on canvas, acrylic, gifts and more. Local craftsmen and global delivery.
Hello Cave Dwellers, welcome to the Cave for a show and tell with our friend here, Alan. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Today we're talking about the weird, the mysterious, the strange world of console development kits. In the old days, you'd buy a ZX Spectrum, you'd buy an Apple II, whatever it was, you'd like a game and you'd think, I want to make a game like this. Type it out, copy it to tape, job done. You are now a game developer and you can go and sell that in a shop. When it came to the consoles, well, I don't know where to start, really. It was inaccessible to the everyday man, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Expensive kit. And today we're going to look primarily at Sony, but we do have a trick up our sleeve, which we'll reveal later. And where better to start than something that was really aimed at the hobbyists, wasn't it? More of a homebrew entry point. They say entry point. It was an expensive entry point. It was the Sony Net, I'm going to let you say the name of it.
Yaroze.
Net Yaroze, not Yaroze or Yaroze as I keep calling it. It was developed by PlayStation creator Ken Kutaragi. So it was the idea of the original PlayStation developer to try and get this into the hands of people and create potentially new developers. Where did you get hold of this one?
So this one was actually from a Facebook group.
Okay.
It was advertised and it was a very good price. Mm-hmm. So I went and picked it up and kind of kick-started my love of dev consoles.
Yeah. Oh, so was this the first one that you got in your collection?
This was one of the first.
One of the first.
One of the first.
The first thing to point out is this is the original PlayStation in the middle of the table here, but this has got like a blackboard finish. It's really nice. It's not that horrible soft touch stuff that goes all marbly and horrible.
It is one you just want to touch it. It's quite strange.
It's lovely, yeah. Really nice. And the controller, which you've got somewhere, matches that. Yeah, really nice look. I wish they'd released the original PlayStation like that.
Well, you say that, but unfortunately, if this gets a mark on it, it's just very hard to clean.
That's true. And at the time, black was like the Mega Drive, wasn't it?
Exactly,
they wanted to move away, so they went with the cream. $750, we can't avoid the price. It's quite a lot of money for a hobbyist.
You had to be very dedicated.
You did.
You really had to put the time into it and really learn the system, just like any other system you're developing games on. You have to know the language, you have to know how the machine works. But as we've seen, some people actually did do some very good games on this.
Yeah. So for $750, you got the console, you got the controller.
You got the controller.
And then you got some software. So you did the development on your PC, your Mac, or an NAC PC 9801. There was also software for.
Okay, I did not know that.
How would you squirt that into your console?
So on the back of the console, if you see it looks just like a regular PlayStation. You have a serial port just here, and you have a cable that plugs into the serial port of your PC, and then that's. So
that is the same as a regular one. You've got the serial port on there.
Yep.
So,
but it wasn't a standard serial port cable, so you had to have the special cable.
Okay. But you couldn't use the cable on this. There was still something else that you needed to
So this has a different BIOS on it as well.
Okay.
So when you boot this machine, it will allow you to play any region games and also allow the development software to boot. But you also still need this access card.
Oh, that's not a memory card?
That's not a memory card. That's an access card.
Okay, yeah, it says that. Access card. So what does that do?
So basically that allows the software to work. If you do not have that, you cannot run the development software.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, that one card cost more than this system did.
When you bought this, did it come with the card?
No, we did not.
Ooh, okay.
So they are quite hard to find because everyone looks at them and thinks that is a memory card and tosses it in a pile and it gets
Tell
lost.
us how much you paid for it.
That was £120.
Ooh. Yeah.
So a lot of money.
Now, hardware-wise, the spec of this PlayStation is 2 meg RAM, 1 meg video RAM, half a meg of memory for the audio. The same thing in there?
Exactly the same. No difference.
There was a limitation, wasn't there?
There was a limitation on what you could actually develop. So with the real machine, obviously you can stream data off of the CD, so you had the full 650 meg available for your game and your audio. With this, you could only have a maximum file size or game size of 2 megabytes, which is the internal memory.
So it all had to fit into memory at the time.
Yes.
You could stream audio from the CD.
You could, as far as I'm aware.
I think so, yeah. So you could have music, but 2 meg, which doesn't sound a lot, but we're going back to 96.
95, 96,
95, 96. It still doesn't sound like a lot when I say it that way.
But if you think Ridge Racer was one of the release titles for the PlayStation in Europe,
Okay.
that was less than 2 megs. You could fit the entire game into the memory of this, and you didn't need to access the CD.
The game, textures and all.
Everything.
2 meg.
So the only thing you got off the CD was the audio. So it was streaming the audio. So 2 megs, you could write a Ridge Racer type game.
Yeah, that's a good example. Really interesting system. I remember reading about it in magazines. I was a PC owner, but I was still very interested in getting hold of that. But then I saw the price, so it didn't happen.
No, this actually has one other unique feature that no other PlayStation console's ever had since. This is the only consumer PlayStation that was released that could actually boot multi-region.
Oh, okay.
If you do that you couldn't do that on normal systems. And obviously the PS3 is multi-region anyway, but that was the only one to actually have it built in.
And I also remember the homebrew games made with it were released on the official UK PlayStation magazine.
Yes, they
used
were.
to get a CD. They would bulk out their CD with the latest games made on there. And there was another commercial release, which I'm going to look down and read here, Devil Dice, a puzzle game.
That's not one I've heard of, actually.
No. Apparently that fits in the 2 meg. It did stream audio, but that was made using that system. So it proves that it could be done in the right hands.
Absolutely.
Now over here we've got a very blue looking PlayStation. Is that just a facelift or what's going on over here? What's this system?
So that is actually a debug system or a test system.
Oh, okay.
So that's something a real developer would use.
Ah, okay. So it says on the bottom here, PlayStation Programmer Tool Debugging Station is the official name. So this is part of the more expensive official dev kit.
Yeah, so if you were a proper developer, you would have a full dev kit, which would run on a PC. You'd build your game, you'd do all your testing on there. And then you get to the point where you're ready to test it on real kit. So that is as close as you can get to a retail PlayStation while still having the debug features in it as well.
So there were no other bits of kit involved in the development. It was a PC and this. There was no.
There was actually a separate development box for the PlayStation and some cards you put inside your PC for the build environment.
Yeah.
But for testing, you would have either a blue one like this, or some of the later ones are actually green. Slightly different revision of hardware inside them.
Okay. Same ports.
Same ports.
It says NTSC here, so it's region locked.
In theory, yes, but you can actually boot multi-region stuff from it.
Okay.
The reason this is different to this is because to boot a game on here, you need to have it signed. So that the encryption or the way to say you can't copy CDs, basically. This will allow you to boot copied CDRs.
So you can run unsigned code.
Yes.
So you can just burn CDRs all day long and test them on there.
Yep.
Brilliant. This must have cost you a lot of money.
Normally, yes. But actually, I found that in a shop in Akihabara in Japan.
Okay.
On my last trip.
Behind a glass case, looking expensive.
You think so, because certainly if you look at the prices on eBay in Europe or North America, they are not cheap pieces of kit. That cost me about £45.
Oh.
Sitting in a bargain bin of systems.
Somebody must have looked at that and just gone, it's a blue PlayStation, there's nothing special about it.
I think they possibly did. I mean, it was actually quite a well-known retro shop. But I think because it's dev kit, they treated it as something that maybe people wouldn't really want. And I don't know if there's not a collecting scene for the dev kit in Japan. But I saw it sitting in a box, as I said, just saw kind of the corner blue bit of it and think, ooh, that's interesting. That doesn't look like a normal system you would see in there. Picked it up, saw the price, and yeah, there's no way that I was not leaving the shop without owning that.
Recently, was that?
February of this year.
There you go. The bargains are still out there to be had. You may have to fly to the other side of the world to find them, but they are out there.
Well, you could almost buy that, sell it, and pay for the flight.
True, very true. The natural place to go next then is going to be the PlayStation 2, I think.
I think so.
So let's go and grab that and continue our journey on dev kits. Right, it's PlayStation 2 time. I've got my regular PS2 Slim here, and a lovely machine it is too. But this one is But it looks like a regular first generation, if you like, PlayStation 2, as they were the big thick one when they first came out. But the big difference is you've got the word test on the side here.
Bit of a giveaway.
Yeah.
So much like the blue debug station that we saw earlier, this is a debug version of the PS2. So used for the same sort of purpose. It's as close as possible as you're going to get to a retail console for testing your games on. Again, multi-region. You can boot any game, which is why I bought it originally. This was my first dev system.
Yes, yeah.
Because I didn't want to chip an original PS2 because I thought it'd be too difficult.
Yeah.
And this was a good price.
PS2 came out in the year 2000. Presumably these dev kits started to appear before that for the developers to get their games made, or did they have something a bit less refined than this?
They probably would have had many iterations before this.
Right, so this is a later dev kit?
Yes, exactly.
So 2000, 32 meg of RAM. I'm totally not reading this from down here. 4 meg of video RAM, 150 million units sold. It was a very successful console.
One of the most successful.
One of the few that I've bought as an early adopter. I went out and got the fat one when it came out. And I, like many others, was hooked in because I could play DVDs. It was the cheapest DVD player on the market.
Absolutely, which is why a lot of people bought them.
Yeah, it just so happened you could play games like Gran Turismo and... I can't remember what one of the really early first games that came out. It's almost like a Jeff Minter style game, very psychedelic.
Fantavision?
Fantavision.
The firework game.
Yes.
Yes.
God, you've got a good memory. That was the game that I bought with it, or it may even come with it. And then I waited for Gran Turismo to come out. That was the big game for me. Anyway, I digress. Test systems. What's different about this then?
Pretty much nothing.
Okay.
It is just a normal machine. It's got a BIOS that's unlocked. So as I said, you can boot any game from it. Other than that, it's exactly the same as what you buy in the shops. Same.
Okay. Is it worth, as a retro enthusiast, getting hold of it just for that region unlocked capability?
It depends on how much you want to play games from other regions.
Yeah. There's obviously other ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's multiple solutions you can use to get access to those games. But as a system that just plug and play and it works, they're fantastic. They're not too expensive as well.
Okay.
Certainly more expensive than a regular PS2, but kind of around the £100-120 mark.
Okay. A few extra pounds for extra bragging rights when you put that on your shelf.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like is the design of this. So you may or may not know that this design, the patent for it, complements Atari, because Atari 8 years earlier brought out a version of the Falcon which looks extremely similar to this, albeit in white or beige. It can be down like that. It came with a stand, didn't it? So you can stand it up. So an old Atari Falcon is to blame in part for the design of the PS2.
I never knew that. And I think actually from memory this was broken when I got it. It was sold to me as fully working, but I tried to play some games on it and it just wasn't reading.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to break the seal on it, which I didn't want to do, but I had to. Just loose cable inside. Plugged the cable into the drive and it fired straight up. So
you would think we're going to go onto the PlayStation 3 next, which we will, and there's some fantastic PlayStation 3 kit looking at me from the other side of the room. We'll grab that in a minute. All 18 kilograms of it. It's a beast. But we're going to play the wild card now. We're going to jump from Sony to Sega. So let's grab some Sega kit and we'll see what we've got. So the PlayStation 2 then is a nice looking machine, but when you compare it to something like this, you look at this and this screams dev kit, doesn't it, compared to that? We're getting into the really meaty stuff now. What is it that we've got on the table here?
This is a Sega Katana, also known as the Sega Development System.
Okay.
So this is what you would actually use to create games.
Okay, so like the PS2, we're on 6th generation consoles with the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was actually the first, I think, wasn't it, of that generation? Came out in 98 in Japan.
Yes.
So a couple of years earlier than the PS2. But yeah, I mean, I can see the control ports. That's pretty much the only familiar bit.
Yep.
And of course the Dreamcast logo. Just talk us through what we've got.
So if you were to power this up, it would look just like a regular Dreamcast and you can put your regular games into it and it will run as a normal Dreamcast.
Okay.
But obviously there's a lot more inside this. So as you said, normal ports on the front and you also have a normal drive
there's
here.
the GD-ROM drive, okay.
Yep. So it's actually a standard drive.
It just looked like a faceplate, but the drive is actually in there.
When I first got it, I couldn't find it either. It's very confusing. And then you've also got the controls here to actually say how the machine will react when it starts up.
Right, okay.
And that kind of goes into how your development system is created. So you have a slide switch, which basically allows you to write to the flash memory. You have a region selection dial, which says what region you want this machine to be. So region 0 is Japan, and then you can have Europe, US, I think Korea, and there's a couple of others as well. And then you have a switch which allows you to select what sort of video you want to come out the back of this, because it has multiple options, as you'll see when we turn it around. So there's the back.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts going on
lots of
there.
goodies
So
on the
it's
back.
well labelled as well. So the one that stands out here is GD writer. So you could make your gold disc off of this, could you?
Yeah, so an option for this was to actually have a GD writer, which you could either sit on top or underneath, and it looked just like a normal CD writer, but allowed you to write to blank CDRs and to GDRs as well. So you could develop your game, put it onto the machine, and then write it from the machine, because this has an internal hard disk as well, onto the writer, and then you can test it on the machine to see if it would work.
Unusually as well, I'm seeing MIDI in and out, which wasn't a feature of the Dreamcast.
No, and that has actually confused me. I need to do a little bit more research to see if they were ever used for anything, but at the moment I actually don't know what they were used for.
Okay, standard SCSI ports.
Yep.
And various serial ports and whatnot. So would you actually sit and develop on this machine, or would you develop on your PC?
Well, this would be part of your development system. So this would obviously be where you'll squirt your code down onto and you'd actually execute it.
Yeah.
But there would be a PC attached to this via a SCSI port, which would have your development environment on there and all the tools you need to create your game. And then obviously,
this is essentially where you test it out. Yeah. So the Dreamcast, when it came out, I remember being super impressed with it. It was Power VR based, wasn't it? It was going to be 3DFX. It was always a bit of a shame that never came through. I would have loved to see a 3DFX console. But it was Power VR based. It had a pretty good processor, 200 megahertz RISC processor, ample RAM. I'm checking down here, 16 meg of RAM, 8 meg of video RAM. And even when the PlayStation 2 came out afterwards, PlayStation 2 always had those early problems with anti-aliasing, didn't it?
Yes.
And the Dreamcast always looked crisp and smooth and high resolution.
It was always my favourite of that generation of consoles.
Really loved it as a console. Can we take a look inside?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and I see it's been a bit smashed up at the front.
Yes,
there,
it's had a bit of a hard life, unfortunately. I'm at least the fourth owner of this.
Right.
And I know the person who originally imported it from the US. When it arrived, it wasn't very well packaged, which is why it has quite a bit of damage on the front and quite a bit of damage to the electronics on the front, and the drive doesn't work, unfortunately, at the moment. So it needs a bit of a restoration.
Right, okay, so this isn't usable at the moment.
It will boot. You can actually use your controllers on it, and you can get to the boot screen, but unfortunately it will not actually boot any games.
Is the boot screen different to regular one?
No,
okay,
exactly
so there's no point capturing it to show you guys. It's the same. And what a lovely boot screen it is.
Absolutely.
Let's get it open and have a look. I've got a screwdriver.
And there we go.
Never meet your heroes, they say.
It is strangely disappointing, isn't it? It does look like a standard 2000s PC.
So we've got a SCSI hard drive at the top there, Seagate branded. Can we see what size that is?
It's a 4 gigabyte,
4
which is the
gigabyte.
biggest disk we support.
Okay, and is that hard drive emulating the GD-ROM?
It can do,
Okay.
but it also stores all your other files you need to build your game and to run your game.
So it's one hard drive for everything?
One hard drive for everything, yes. There we go. Put that down there.
Okay, so what can we see down in there then? Yeah. I imagine that
Not
top
much
board, a lot of that top board is going to be the SCSI controller.
It is, yes.
I'm looking for things like the Power VR logo and the
So
CPU.
that's all on the main board down here.
In this, right, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of metalwork to
There's
maintain the
quite a paint to get
airflow.
off.
So we're not seeing a lot in there, but thank you for letting us have a look anyway.
You can
And I
see
can
some of
see-
the damage on the front. See that switch is not actually connected to anything.
Oh, yes. And I'm seeing lots of surface mount caps. Has this been recapped?
It hasn't yet, no.
Are they-
So it needs a
does it-
full refurb.
Yeah. Are they of the period of terrible surface mount caps? Or?
They are.
They are,
They
okay,
are.
so they have a reputation.
Yes,
So we can't see a huge amount in there, but we can see that it's certainly not a toy.
definitely not.
This is the dev kit. This is the machine that the majority of Dreamcast games were made with, isn't it?
Yes.
This is the one.
Yes.
Were there more iterations than just this
There
one?
were different revisions of this, but this is typically the one that probably most people will remember if you were developing on this system.
And part of the value of buying and collecting these systems is not just the value of the system itself, it's the value of what might or might not be on the hard drives.
Absolutely, yes.
Have you ever done a bit of digital archaeology on here?
Something I want to do,
Right.
but obviously with the history of this machine, given the damage it had when it was in transit, whether this hard disk still works, whether it's actually got anything on this that's salvageable,
Yeah.
that's a mystery for another day.
you don't want to do anything that might make it worse, do you? Even if it's just turning it on to see if it spins up. That could be the death of anything that's on there. So yeah, you got to give it some careful consideration. Well, do let us know if you find an unreleased game on there. You never know. An unreleased train simulator. That would make all your Christmases at once.
Absolutely, yes.
Where do we go next from the Dreamcast then? We go back to Sony, don't we? And the next gen is PS3. So hold on to your hats. Hold on to your back, because this is going to be a heavy one to lift up onto the table.
This is a monster.
Here comes the PS3 monster. So we're on to coffee time and PlayStation 3 era now. So after the PlayStation 2 and its DVD player, the PS3 comes along with a Blu-ray player, tries to repeat that success of persuading people to buy into new media. But also we're moving into an era more of online services on your consoles. I know there were online capabilities on the PS2, but it's now core to the system.
Absolutely, yes.
And this, we'll start with this one. I know there's the beast over here, which I know you're all itching to find out about, but let's just talk about this one first. This is the PlayStation 3, and like the 2 that you have, it says test on the side. So is this the same kind of thing?
Essentially, yes. So it's a system that you can run your games on to see how they would run on a normal retail system.
Right.
But obviously, because of, as you said, this is the online age, there's a lot more to these machines that you can do.
Yeah.
So if you were to run this, it would look like a standard PS3. You can run retail games on it. But what you can't do is go online and download retail patches for games. You can only download the developer builds.
Right, so it identifies that it's the...
It does.
What's it called? A debugging station on the label here. So it identifies that. It doesn't let you access to regular updates.
You can change the ID of the console as far as I'm aware in one of the debugging menus, but it's something I've never tried and I wouldn't want to try it anyway because it would potentially break the machine.
And I'll talk about the specs of what's in here, but when we open that one up, are we likely to find the same thing?
Same hardware, but it looks very different.
Looks very different, okay. And can we open that in a moment?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, we'll get a look in there. But what's in here is the cell processor, 3.2 gigahertz. That was PowerPC-based technology made by IBM, Toshiba, Motorola. It was an amalgamation of all the big companies. So the cell processor, 256 meg of RAM, 256 meg of video RAM. So we're really ramping up the texture memory and going hard on the 3D. And an NVIDIA GPU. This was released 10 years after the first PlayStation, 6 years after the PlayStation 2. Huge amount of progress has been made in those 10 years.
Absolutely.
It's a different beast altogether, isn't it? And the fun thing about that processor, the cell processor, is people would buy these, I don't know if you remember, and use them as supercomputers. They would... That
was the rumours I remember
Well, it was more than rumours. I know I saw it in the advertising and I thought, right, you got me with the PlayStation 2. With the PS2, it was all about emotion, wasn't it? It's got to be a motion engine and characters are going to be all emotional and it's going to be like movies. Okay, you hooked me in with that one, Sony. I wasn't buying it again. There were marketing stories about how these had been banned in particular countries because they were classed as a supercomputer. But actually, the Air Force Research Laboratory in 2010 bought 1,760 PS3s, connected them all up to create the 33rd largest supercomputer in the world.
Pretty impressive.
So it worked, all of those cell processors and GPUs working together. And when you tot up the cost of 1,700 PS3s, it was about £1 million. It's not that bad to get 33rd in the world. That's pretty good value for money. Yeah. So this was a serious bit of kit.
As long as they didn't update them, of course, because they took the functionality away.
They did, didn't they? Can you remember why they did that? Was it because it had been hacked?
I think it was fears of hacking. Yeah. There was possibly a backdoor into the machine so you could do things you shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, because you could get Linux for it, as you could with the PlayStation 2, and then they pulled the rug out from everyone. This can play region free, I think you said.
Well, most PS3s are region free anyway, so it can play anything.
Okay, it can play anything.
You can set the specific region of the machine, though. So when you look at the debug menus later, you'll see there is a region setting, and there's quite a few regions in there you wouldn't expect.
Now, let's look at this. I can't resist anymore. Let's get this off the table. What is it, first of all?
It's a monster, basically. It's an 18-kilo, €15,000 on release monster. So this is basically what's called a reference system.
Okay.
So this is what you would use to develop your games on. So similar to the Sega system we saw earlier, you wouldn't compile your code on here. That would be your separate development system. But this is where you can run your code, you can debug your code, and do all the things as a developer you want to do on the machine. So you could, as you say, you could rack mount it. Also, there was a foot so you could put on the bottom, so you could stand it next to your desk if you wanted an additional heater maybe as well. Maybe I wouldn't want one there because they are quite noisy, as you'll see when we power it on.
Let's have a look on the front. I'm going to have to lean around here. So on the front, we have actually got USB ports. We've got the memory card ports. So lots of familiar ports to a PlayStation 3. So you can just sit in front of it and play on it like a regular PlayStation 3.
It will play all normal retail games.
A very noisy PlayStation 3. And 2 hard drives?
2 hard disks, yep. Okay. So
What's the difference?
The way this works is this hard disk here, that is your regular PlayStation 3 hard disk, what you'd have in your normal console. You'll put your game data on there, your saves, everything you'd normally put on there. This one here can act as a Blu-ray drive. So you can put your game onto this hard disk here, and rather than have to burn a Blu-ray and put it into the drive, you can run it from there if you want to.
Okay. So you're running your game, and then presumably this is giving you not just the display, obviously you're playing the game, but it's giving you lots of other debugging information in some way.
One of the reasons this is bigger is because you don't just have the PS3 in here, you have the whole development system communication side of it as well. So as a developer, you can put this onto your development network, have your code squirted down to the machine or your programs on the machine. You can run them and see what they're doing whilst they're actually running as well. And you see there's actually a port for a foot switch on the front. You can use that to stop the code and execute through it and say, okay, well, I've got this bug here. Let's try and see what's going on in the code.
So instead of putting breakpoints in the code,
exactly.
you can hit the brake.
You can hit the brake, yes.
With your foot. Brilliant. I think we need to look inside to see what else is going on in there. So is it just the 3 screws at the back?
Let's go on the front.
Couple on the front, right. Let's grab that screwdriver and get inside.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's not that exciting, unfortunately.
Okay, can we see under any of these, or is it just more and more shielding?
No, actually you can get inside it.
We can? Okay, we need a smaller screwdriver.
So we'll start in the middle then.
I'll get another screwdriver for you.
Yeah, I might need some help. There's a lot of screws here.
So Alan, I've gone from feeling like a game developer to a Dell server engineer.
Yep.
Lots of familiar parts. You've got your heat sinks. You've got all of your thermal plastics to draw the heat away. A couple of fans at the back, ATA hard disks.
Yep, so SATA hard disks.
What else have we got?
Blu-ray drive under here.
This looks like a custom board here. What's this bit here?
So this is the part that is your communications network. So this controls all of the access to the development side of the network.
Yep.
So there's actually 2 boards under there.
Right.
And if you pull them out, you see there's lots of custom chips on there. There's all the processors, the memory, all the things that needs to run. That's a completely separate environment to everything else that's on here.
Okay. These are the cell processors. 2 cell processors?
No, so you've got the processor and the RSX GPU.
Ah, that's the GPU. Okay. It's amazing, isn't it, when you look at the standard PlayStation that it can cool itself in there. When
It is absolutely. It just doesn't melt into a puddle of plastic.
What's this board over here? This is the AV out, so this is helping with the display over here.
Yeah.
And then hard drives, presumably.
Put the pair of 400 gig hard drives in there.
Can they be quickly popped out on the front?
They can. You need the power on to do that, though. They're actually locked in, yes.
Oh.
We can try that in a minute.
Yeah, okay. Does this panel come up or not?
It does, but I think I have to take all of this off as well. And to be honest, it's just a pair of hard disks under
It's just a pair of hard disks.
It's nothing exciting.
Okay, and then the long power supply down here, which it's not actually made to quickly swap out. I know you can open it up and you can yank the handle out, but it's not a quick release one like you get with your HP or your Dells.
And if we were to take all the front of this fan assembly off, we actually see it's actually dual connected as well.
Okay.
So there's actually 2 standard PC power supply connections under there going into the board.
Interesting. Right, let's power it up then. And also, if we power this up and try and capture from it, are we going to see anything different like the other PS3?
It will look exactly the same as that PS3 test
Exactly
system.
the same menus. Yeah. Okay. So power on test time.
Absolutely. So you may hear an audible click. That will be the power supply turning on, but you'll notice this will not actually do anything.
Okay.
So that's the power on. So we have a standby light and we have a status light here. But that basically means the communication side of the machine is booting. And at the moment, it won't do anything. If I press the power button, nothing will happen.
Right, okay.
So we need to just wait for that to go out, which is about 20 seconds or so. We have the green light. We are ready to go. So there we go.
There's that familiar server sound.
Yep. And so you've actually got various lights that now come on. So the discs, this axis on this one here, so that's your Blu-ray drive, but you'll see a boot from this one. And there we go. That's a PlayStation.
So strange, isn't it? Seeing the dashboard appear from a machine that looks like this.
Absolutely.
Straight into the PlayStation store.
Yeah.
Have you connected it up to the internet, or are you a bit worried about what it might do? Yeah.
I would not want to do it.
Might bring in an update that bricks it, or
absolutely,
something.
yes. Yes.
And now that we've got power, we can unlock these hard drives, can't we?
We can't when it's powered on, unfortunately.
Right, okay.
Because they're not like a real server, they're not redundant. Because that is your Blu-ray drive, that is your system drive.
It's not a RAID configuration.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
So if we power it off, then we can pop them out?
Yeah, so we either power up with the power switch, or we can plug a controller into it. I'll just press that. It should start to shut down.
Okay.
So if we want to take a drive out, all we do is unlock the drive by pressing the button. And there we go. And we can take the drive out and we can replace it as we need to.
What have we got there? 250 gig drive?
That's a 400 gig drive.
400 gig drive.
The standard SATA. And you just put them back in.
That's completely unnecessary, isn't it? I can imagine being in a situation where that mechanism breaks and your hard drive is locked.
True, but then if you're a developer, you don't want someone walking off your hard disks.
That's true. There is a security aspect to it.
There's an act to this as well. So what you might have noticed is actually an extra pair of USB ports on the front. So you have your standard USB ports that would be on your normal PS3, and you have two extra, helpfully labelled extra, which are connected into the communication system at the back.
So you can put your keyboard in.
Yep, put all your bits and pieces in that you need to do whatever you're doing.
And there's the foot switch. Yeah.
So just like a regular PS3, standard controller, turn it on, and we just have full access to the menus. And if you didn't know we're looking at, you'd see this is a standard machine. But if we whiz down to here, we have an extra menu. And in here, we have all the settings for the debugging side of the machine. And there's lots and lots of stuff in here, as you can see. Here, this is, for example, this is where we set what you want to use as your Blu-ray drive, either your disc, or you can use the hard disk.
This is the same menu as on the other PS3.
Yeah, because this is the debug menu. It's not the not what you'd use for full development.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff on there.
And you said there's some content on here?
There is some, certainly on the, as you can see, there is some directories on here.
App Home PS3 game.
And if you actually try and run it, there's nothing there.
Oh,
so maybe I'm not doing it right, or maybe it's not working, or maybe it's been wiped. I don't know. Hopefully one day I will find out.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone knows how I can access that.
Do you know the origins of this machine?
No. All I know, it came from a guy on eBay. He had a load of these machines in a big pile, which he was selling for a reasonable price. I thought, I want one of those. Not realising quite how big it was, and how heavy it was. So when this arrived with the postman, who wasn't very happy, it was quite a shock to see how big it was.
So we can't even take a guess at what that content might be. Oh, I hope you find out someday.
I sort of
know. So from PS3, we're winding backwards a little bit now to PSP 2004. And before we do, actually, the PlayStation 3 games are still stacked up here. The reason being, I think now is a really good time to buy PlayStation 3 games.
Absolutely.
I'm paying less than £1, 95p for most of these games. I haven't even got a PS3. I've just been buying the games whenever I see them in charity shops just because they're so cheap.
Yeah, it's the same with Xbox games. They're starting to creep up a little bit now. So now is a good time. Anything Xbox, PS3, Wii U as well.
Every other game that you see, of course, is FIFA. But if you look hard, you can build up a collection. So there we go. Anyway, from PS3 to PSP 2004, 7th generation console designed to compete with the Nintendo DS. Here is the PSP as we know it. What the hell are these?
These are a complete development system. So we have, this is the dev system, and this is a test system.
Oh, so they're two different things.
They are two different things. And if you look at them from the front, they look identical.
Yes.
But when we look at the back, you see they are actually slightly different.
Okay, so which one should we start with?
Let's start with the dev.
Dev, okay.
So very similar to what we saw with the PS3, you have a development environment, you have a test environment. So this would be something that the developer would use to run their code, to do all their debugging on, to do their initial builds on.
So it compiles the code. They're not using a separate...
No, it doesn't compile the code.
Oh,
so
it doesn't compile the code.
environment.
Okay.
So on the back of this one, you'll see there is actually an Ethernet port.
Yeah.
So again, this can go onto a development network and many people can actually share this one machine.
And then this one?
So this is a test system. And the thing you'll notice on the back of this one is this one does not have an Ethernet port.
Okay.
Because this is meant to be used standalone. So this is something a developer or tester or even a games tester can have on their desk. Someone can give them a copy of a game they burnt, put it into the drive, or they can put it into the CD-ROM drive and then run the game and do some testing on it.
Okay, so you haven't got the ability to squirt the game in and play it. You have to have some media, but you can play the game directly off of CD. It doesn't have to be on the UMD, which is quite handy in modern times, surely, because these are quite difficult to get hold of, these discs.
Yes.
Is it possible even to get hold of rewritable ones?
I actually don't know. I've never seen one.
Yeah, so the fact you can just put it on a CD, that's great. And then, do we have controller ports or anything? How do you play with a PlayStation controller?
No, you use a PSP.
Oh, okay. So that's where this comes into it, because there's this umbilical cord.
So yeah, as you can see, it's actually quite a slightly different PSP to you would normally see. And we have a pair of connectors on here, one of which is USB, and one is just to run the display on the machine. Mm-hmm. So you plug these into the front of the machine. You boot this just like you would a normal PSP, and it runs just like a normal PSP. Okay, and that cable, it looks like it can't be detached.
No, it can't. No, so it's permanently attached.
If you were to open this up inside, you would obviously, there's no UMD drive inside here. It's pretty much just a screen and some controls.
Yeah, okay, so you're tethered to that. As always, I want to dig inside these things. Can we take the screws out and have a look inside?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, which is better to look at?
Let's look at the dev system.
Okay, are they the same inside? Mostly the same. Okay, but this one has more in.
Yes.
Okay, let's look in the dev system then. We'll grab the screwdriver.
So hopefully that should now open up. And we take them off. Down there. And there we go. So there's not a lot inside them.
I do like the colour of that PCB.
It's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've got the power supply coming into the board, battery backup.
Yep.
And that's for the CD drive.
That's for the CD drive.
And then the UMD's on the ribbon cable up there.
And then just your main board with all your bits and pieces on.
And then, like we saw in the other one, CPU, GPU.
That's quite interesting when you think how all of that is shrunk into a PSP.
Mm.
And if you have a PSP, you'll recognise that as the headphone controller.
So if we opened up the other one, would we find the same thing or slightly different?
It would look very similar. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you'd have less chip count on there because it's not doing as much as this system is doing. So there's no Ethernet on there, there's no communication side of it, there's no development side of it. So you see the same board, just less chips.
Yeah, okay. Have you imported any rare PSP games?
Oddly enough, I haven't, no, because the PSP is universal out of the box. I don't have to worry about not being able to run them, but I've not really found anything I really want to play, apart from, oddly enough, a train game. There's a very expensive train game that only came out in Japan, which is shockingly expensive, and I won't be importing that one.
You know how people build like their dream flight simulator in their house and sometimes dedicate a room to it? Mm-hmm. You ever thought about doing that with a train?
I think I would be disowned if I did that.
There must be some old British rail carriages that you can get hold of.
I can explain my collection to my girlfriend. I don't think I can explain a train cab. That would not be good.
Well, Alan, it's been an education for me. My introduction to console dev kits. You've demystified a certain amount of it.
My pleasure.
You've made some of it even more mysterious. They don't give away their secrets that easily,
They certainly don't. They certainly don't.
Are there any more that you're looking to get in your collection?
There's loads I'd like. There's GameCube dev systems, Sega Saturn, but they are unbelievably rare and unbelievably expensive. There's some N64 stuff I'd love to get my hands on, but it is very expensive to buy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are there any particularly unusual ones, like the Saturn one or the Wii one? Are they as big as that PlayStation 3 one we saw today?
There's a Wii dev system, which is called the GC Dev, I think it's called, which is quite large. I have seen one, and I didn't buy it, and I do regret it. There is a GameCube dev system which has what looks like a cartridge that you stick on the top of it, and that's quite unusual and quite strange. And some of the more modern stuff as well. So I have seen a PS4 dev system, even bigger than the one we saw before. Some of the Xbox stuff, that's quite interesting. So XDK systems, very interesting.
As we move into the present gen or the next gen consoles, their architecture is becoming more and more PC-like in terms of processors and graphics cards. It's all becoming a bit samey. Do you think they're going to move to development purely on PCs from now on? Do you think that's the way it's going?
It could possibly happen.
It'd certainly bring the cost down because these things can't be cheap for companies to develop.
No. As we said, the PS3 unit, that was 15,000 euros when it came out. These are thousands to actually buy.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it would probably go that way, but it depends on what they do with the PS5 and the next Xbox and what they do.
It's a bit sad, isn't it, for them to disappear? I don't want them to disappear. I like these quirky,
sad,
unique bits of hardware.
They're fun things to collect because they are so unusual and people don't really know that much about them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to show them to us today. Surely your dream must be to develop something at some point.
I think I am a frustrated programmer at heart.
Maybe the Net Yaroze,
maybe, or
the
Fuse actually. Fuse has just come out for the Switch. Which is a
we've
fantastic
covered that on
development
the channel.
environment. I've been having a little bit of a play around with that, and I've got a long flight coming up soon, so I think I might sit down during that flight and have a little play and see what I can come up with.
There's a challenge. Make a game in a flight.
I think that could be done.
And we can't go without asking you about your very loud T-shirt. Tell us about Fusion.
Fusion magazine, which I'm sure hopefully some people may have bought and enjoyed. We're currently doing a Kickstarter for the annual, which is going very, very well. So if anyone wants to come and have a look at that, please come and support us. You'll get some freebies as well if you sign up now.
Yeah.
I think we get a free copy of Fusion ZX, which will be a Spectrum dedicated version of Fusion, and a calendar as well.
Good. A good old-fashioned games magazine, and now an annual for it. So there'll be links in the description to that and anything else we've discussed today. Go and check it out. Alan, thank you very much for your time today, sir. Thank you for watching, and take care.
If you enjoy my content and would like to support The Cave while receiving a completely ad-free experience and access to releases 1 week before they go public, then visit patreon.com/retromancave and join the official Cave Dwellers. Thank you for your support.